Hello, everyone. I can see. Welcome to Toronto. I'm in Toronto and I've got Angie just in the other room. And let me bring her on board. Angie, welcome.
Hi.
So, we are, what we have is your tomorrow morning.
Yes.
You are Wednesday morning at 8 o'clock.
Yes.
And I am Tuesday evening at 6 o'clock.
Apparently.
And I just want to give everybody just a fair warning. We are under a tornado watch right here at the moment in Toronto. We expect some pretty bad thunderstorms. So if you hear some cracking in the background, or if by any chance I suddenly go out, it's just because of the bad weather warning. I see a couple of people here from Michigan. They probably had it about an hour ago, and we're getting it here. So, welcome everybody. I brought Angie here because we're in the thick of 100 days, 100 blocks, and I thought it would be good to have just a good check-in with everyone, how people are doing with their blocks. If they have any questions, here's a good place to take them up. Um, and Angie and I can chat forever, so it's not going to be any difficulty between Angie and I keeping up a conversation. So
Yes.
I think the first thing that I'm going to ask you is, you've made your kinship block so many times in many different ways. What is your favorite block that you have ever made so far?
Um, I've been thinking about this one for 48 hours and I still have no answer. Um, I I can't they're like children. You can't tell you've got a favorite. The other ones will be annoyed. Um I am quite partial to anything with a big motif in it. So the blocks that have like a 6x6 piece in it or a 6x8, something like that in it. Um, I don't want to ruin the surprise, but this block's coming up. I think it's block 27 or block 28.
Ooh, lovely.
And I actually don't like this block design, which is funny because it's one of the ones that I designed, because I find that this partial S is annoying. If you put it that way, it's kind of like a question mark, but then it's missing its dot. Anyway, I struggle with this one, but this year I feel like this is a block I've nailed. It's the story of this diver going down to the sea bottom and the waves and the rope. And so I find if I struggle with a block, I tell myself a story about it. Um, but yeah, I don't have a real favorite. I'm loving this year's. Um, so yeah, sorry, that's a really crappy question to
Well, the
start
one
with.
that I really like is the one with the sailor and the tattoo. Um, what is it? Alexander Henry? I can't believe I don't
I
have
can't
any of
believe
his
I've never heard of
fabrics.
Alexander Henry. Um, they were one of this. There's this one here with the merman and the very perky nipples. Um, this is block one.
Yes.
Yep. So yeah, the Alexander Henry's providing quite an interesting look this year. But yeah, it's and still some of these aren't my favourites either. Oh, this man. Oh no, I don't think we've seen this one yet. Have we seen this one yet?
No.
Yeah. So, now look, I'm ruining the surprise for everybody. But yes, so every year it changes. There's two kinship quilts in my background, and I looked at those this morning, and I was like, I can't even pick a favourite off them. So yeah, sorry, I should have just said to Grant, my husband, you pick your favourite block, and I'll tell everyone it's mine.
Well, I know we chatted about this before I started. I guess it was back in our chat on Karen's Quilt Circle. But I am really enjoying that scale, that
Yes.
large. There's a couple of blocks with this large area to use up those really nice big prints that we fall in love with, but are particularly hard to quilt with because we end up cutting them up. Um, and can I just say, I think everybody that does this block should get bonus points.
I think
This
everybody that does that block
put your
should get.
put your comments in the chat if you agree with me. Like this was particularly challenging. It has echoes of the 3-inch churn dash blocks from long time gone.
Yep. And I think everyone should jump on Skyberry's Instagram account and tell her how much they love that block, because she designed that one. So if any of them turn up with a 1-inch block like piece in it, that's a Beck. Chances are that's a Beck block, because I don't do small piecing. But with that said, that block is brilliant because it's a challenge block. This is about building your skill sets. This is about practicing, and that block is the perfect way, a perfect litmus test for where you're at in your skill set. And I think we don't do another 1x2 flying geese until we get to block 100, and it's really good to see people compare those flying geese they did in block 20 with the flying geese they do in block 100, because it's a great way to show just how much you've progressed through the event and through the practice. But yeah, I hate that one too.
Now, part of the problem is also that you have that really big bump in the middle. So if anybody has not seen my video on how to sew straight, I've got a little hack for how you get over that bump without distorting your block too much.
That sewing straight video, like I've been sewing for 9 years now, and I would class myself as a professional sewer, so I sew every day practically. But that video rocked my world, because I had never thought about the fact that the presser foot was going from 2 different thicknesses. And so there's a few little things that I've changed about it as well. And so that's helped. Like, watch it. Go watch it. I'm going to put a QR code to it in the next version of the pattern. Just go watch it.
Now, I just want to let everybody know that I've got Brandy is in the background helping out. She's going to put that link in the notes. She's going to actually put a link, I believe, to the sampler quilt playlist, and that's one of the ones in the sampler quilt playlist. So if you haven't seen it, go check that out. And thank you, Brandy, for being back there holding our hands. Now, Colleen Armstrong has asked, how many people are participating this year in 100 Days, 100 Blocks that you know of?
That's a hard one, because there's no way of knowing if someone signs up whether they're actually doing it, because you get a lot of, it's like an accident on a freeway, you get lots of rubberneckers. But we've had over 3,500 people sign up for the newsletter, so you kind of have to go, if they sign up for the newsletter, chances are they are participating. But yeah, it's a bit, and I know this sounds funny, I don't really like to count the numbers, because I'm kind of like, this year especially, the Facebook group is just so wonderful and everyone is so supportive and lovely. And then on Instagram, there's just been such a swell of people who are new and learning. And that to me is the bit that I focus on, is the people more than that number. So sorry, I can't really give you an accurate answer.
And I know,
Yeah.
even with myself, like it took me 2 years before I actually joined in. Like the first
Yeah.
year, I had just so many questions and I didn't know whether I could commit. And I was just a cheerleader the very first year. And it took me a second year to do it. So we may have people that bought the pattern last year or in a previous year that are signed on. But you think about 3,000 plus.
Yeah, I
And
think
from
so.
all over the world.
From all over the world. I was just going to say, I think this is the year that it's the biggest amount signed up. But this is the first year that we've actually run a specific newsletter, so I don't really having a
Right.
way to go, oh yeah, we had that last year. This is the first year though that I've sent a pattern to South Korea, which was exciting, and we've sent patterns into Europe, Japan. We had one go to Taiwan. So this is the first year. Oh, South Africa is always really popular as well, but it's the first year that we've had like a global stretch with the pattern, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, it's always really exciting to go to the post office and go to my local postie. Here's one for South Korea. And then go, woo! But
Well,
yes.
now you and I are both enjoy sampler quilts, and just to get an
Yes.
idea how many different ways there are to do things, I'm just going to ask you. We're just going to compare answers on how do we do things. Do you pin or not pin?
I'm a pinner. I'm a pinner. Pin.
And I
Um,
never pin. I only pin if I absolutely have to. Absolutely have to.
I tend to, because I use the From Marti Michell templates, and their corners mean that you can match up really easily your squares and triangles. I tend not to pin on, um, like, I don't pin every seam into something like this.
Right.
Um, but I will pin the first place and the last place on long stretches just to keep them together and even feed. If you're matching flying geese together, I will always pin the point so that it doesn't move because of that bulk as it goes through the machine. Um, and I kind of go with pin a lot when you start, and then over time you can decrease the amount of pinning you do as you get more confident and you learn. I like to call it the patchwork ninja skills. You can feel if your seams move in transit as they're going through. So yeah, pinning's one of those things where I kind of go, I'm a big advocate for pinning, but I know, oh, there she is now. I know Rayleigh from Sunflower Stitcheries, not a pinner, and we often have lots of jokes at each other's expense about pinning, but yes.
Everybody, as I'm asking Angie these questions, please put your own opinions in the notes as the comments as to whether you're a pinner or not a pinner. So, how about the next one? Steam or no steam?
Oh, that's a difficult one because I used to be a massive fan of the steam, but now I'm sort of transitioning into a massive fan of the starch, which takes precedence over the steam. Um, I think a hot iron, as hot as you can get, um, is the key. And I also use a wool mat, a wool pressing mat, which I've only just started using in the last couple of months, and it's really made a difference. I was I was like, what will wool do? But it does get those seams a lot flatter. So yeah, I know that steam can distort um, the the thread, that stuff that goes up and down and across. Um, so yeah, I'm a bit more of a fan of starch, which I think will answer the next question if I'm a mind reader.
I was a huge steam user, and then I wasn't. Like, I suddenly, I think it was about 2 years ago, I realized if I spritz my fabric with water and use a really hot iron, I got far superior results than using steam on my iron. So I probably haven't used steam in. I don't even have water in my in my iron anymore. And
Because there's nothing more heartbreaking than steaming and a big glob of bleh comes out from your
well,
iron.
one of the problems with that is the water coming up is people turn on the steam when the iron is down. There's a valve in
Yeah,
the iron, so the iron has to be upright and off. You turn it on, and then you turn on the steam, and that valve should work properly. But that's the one thing that breaks down. How about, okay, so now starch or no starch?
starch, and I'm very specific about my starch.
Which
I
starch
like.
is
I think it's a Canadian product too. Um,
flatter? Yeah.
Flatter by Soak, because And I'd like to say it's because it's all natural and it's recycled and it's great for the
No,
planet.
it's because
But
it
really,
smells like fig or something like that, right?
it smells so nice.
It does. It just smells so nice. I don't use a lot of starch, but because we're fussy cutting a lot, and
Yeah.
I've got to use the starch to control the bias. So,
So there
but
is a
oh, I
trick
love
with
that smell.
oh,
It's lovely.
I used to this is so weird, but at Quilt Market, I used to go and find the flatter booth every day and just spritz a little bit on my clothes because it's like the quilter's cologne. But yeah, so um that's my starch of choice, but I think it's a really personal choice with starch. And I know you did an interview with Kimberly from Fat Quarter Shop, and she is starch mad. Like just
Starch
she
mad. She's
baked.
pin mad. She probably puts in twice as many pins as anybody else. Um,
Yeah,
but she has perfect results, so it works for her.
yes. So that's my thing with starch. And I just saw someone said, "Oh, Nick, Nick from Craftapalooza said, and flatter is not starch, so no bugs will eat your blocks." Good to
Okay.
know.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
We're gonna find
And
out it's vodka.
I'm just here drinking my mixer of starch. Um, Deborah Higgins has asked, where do we get it in Australia? Well, Deborah, check out my online store. I stock all the flavors I love. Can I call them flavors now that we've said we drink them? But yes,
Do you
candy, I like
press
that.
your seams open or to the side?
I press my seams to the situation, which again, Rayleigh from Sunflower, who does all my quilting, is going to balk at. So she told me, and I ignore it, but don't be like me, people. If you want to stitch in the ditch in your quilting, you need to press all your seams to one side. If you are not going to stitch in the ditch, then you can press them open. For me personally, I like to press to the situation. So if I can find my block 20, um, to help remove some of that bulk in that middle seam. I should have had these prepared. Oh, can you see?
Oh, let me just change it to your screen.
Oh, I need to find.
There. Yeah.
Um, so pressing to one side. Normally, I press these open, but I thought that I would do. I would get Rayleigh to stitch in the ditch on these ones because I've got a plan for this. So, for example, where those two geese meet, normally I would press those open so that reduces that bulk and you can get them to meet in there. But yeah, it's a real, like, see with this one, I stitched open, ooh,
Yep, some of
open
them
on
are
this
open
one.
and some of them are shut.
Yeah, because I just wanted it to lay flat. I didn't want there to be a shadow between these two pieces. I wanted it to read as just one piece. So it's really up to you.
I think that's one of the reasons why I like a sampler quilt, because then you don't need to worry about um, so much of an ironing plan. Like you don't need to worry about the ones on the side matching up with another block. You can just do the easiest way that you can see possible.
The other thing too, which I never really gave much thought to, but I had a conversation with Weeks Ringle about it, is if you press to the side, press to the side, it will create an indent and leave a shadow so if you're hanging the quilt somewhere, it'll cast a shadow down that piece. So I try sometimes to think about how I want the fabric to read when someone's looking at it. Um, Sorry, I'm giggling because Rayleigh's just said, think about your quilting when you're piecing, plan ahead. And I'm like, yeah, you're a quilter. That's why. But I'm a piecer and I'm thinking about how it looks. So yeah, it's a really, and I'm a fan of the nest. If you can nest your seams, which is a
Yes.
great tip for accuracy, if you're having issues with your HSTs not lining up or your checkerboards all being just a little bit off, if you press to the side, you can use those quilting ninja skills to nest that seam.
And I
And
find
that's
sometimes they nest better when they're pressed to one side or the other. Like they'll match up better, not necessarily to the dark side or to the light side. Just go with what works better for your block.
Yes. And so because I'm a fussy cutter, that press to the dark means nothing to me, because sometimes it'll be like there's no consistency really in how I place fabric tone in some, if you're doing like a one block repeat, you want that pattern to be shown ahead, so you press accordingly to what fabrics are in there. But when you're fussy cutting a sampler, just practice. It's a great time to practice to see whether you are a better matcher of seams if they're pressed to one side and you nest them, or whether you press them open and you're better with pinning those two pressed open seams together. So practice, 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 and then do what works for you.
I
So
think after our conversation on Karen's Quilt Circle, I was looking so forward to it because I realized I hadn't done a lot of fussy cutting in a little while, and I can't believe how every single time I cut my Tula fabrics, I have to sit down and give myself permission to do it. Like I've just been holding on to them as good stuff for so long that I now have I'm allowed to use them. They're my stuff. I'm allowed to use them, and it makes me happy.
you're an adult and you paid for the fabric. You can use it. I it's comments. So I read just I'm going to scroll back here and see if I can see. Amy left a comment in the chat about she got overwhelmed with fabric selection and just didn't start, so she quit before she started. And I hear that a lot, especially in the lead up to the event. People get really overwhelmed with the fabric, the choice, and they don't want to get it wrong, and they see what other people are doing and they think they question, double think what they're going to do because they see what others are doing. I get comments from people who get upset because they miscut something while they're working, and it's fabric they've been hoarding for a while and they miscut it. And the thing that I keep coming back to is it's just fabric. It's just fabric. There will be more fabric. You will always find fabric you love and you want to hoard. And if the last few years in the fabric industry have taught us anything, those companies will reprint the fabric. I don't know whether anyone's seen Ruby Star's latest announcement, but a lot of the fabric I paid $50 for a fat quarter are now being reprinted. So it's not like you're never going to get that opportunity again. And this whole event is around practicing and getting to know who you are through your selections and what makes you happy, and seeing what makes you happy when you look at other people's blocks. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is to start and to cut that fabric. And there is a certain joy and abandon and looking at your quilt when you're done and being able to enjoy those fabrics instead of them being folded in a box somewhere waiting for the perfect project.
Yeah.
So cut, 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 and then pin.
And
But yeah.
I'm just going to offer my advice. If you're overwhelmed by it, just take a fabric, either a fat quarter bundle or, 3 or 4 fabrics from a line that you like. And then
Yeah.
as you're quilting, find fabrics that match those. You don't have to buy the whole line. You just have to match those core ones. And as long as
Yeah.
you've got a piece of those in every single block, you'll be fine. You'll be
And
fine.
solids are your friend. Like, so many people are like, solids are boring, I don't use solids. But solids are a great way of bridging the gap between I love this print and I don't know how to use it. So there's a trick. Let me see if I can find. I should. So this fabric, for example, has multiple colors on it. On the selvage, these dots here represent what colors are used in that print. So if you take the print to your fabric store, you can match these colors here to the solids that you want to use and complement it. And you'll know they always go with that print. So that was a little trick that someone early on told me. And it's a great way if you're not confident with matching color. to take the fabric you love. And this is why quilt stores are so important. Go to the quilt store and say to them, while you're wearing a mask, can you match this fabric for me? So use that experience, buy from them. Don't go in there and get them to match it and then go home and buy it off the internet. Buy from them, support them, thank them for that work. If you can't get to a store, the other trick is to contact your online supplier like your dealer, and email them the fabric you're trying to match and ask them if they can match it for you. Because if they don't have it in stock, they can contact the wholesaler and the wholesaler will tell them what colors match with what. So there's no excuse not to get a palette that works for you.
Yeah, often
Now,
if you like, if it's a motive fabric or possibly, I'm pretty sure Free Spirit and some of the other lines do it. If you go to their website, they'll also have a palette of their solids that go with those colors.
they do everything they can to get you to use that fabric so you'll buy more. So help support them, champion our industry. But yes.
So, we have selected a couple of blocks that we found online that we both enjoyed. Um, and we're going to share them with you and talk about why they just stood out for us a bit. So, I'm going to take one of yours. I'm going to do, which ones would you like me to do of yours first, Angie?
Just pick a random.
Just
I
pick a
love
random one.
Yeah.
There's so many lovely ones. I'm gonna bring this one out first because this person went to a lot of effort, and this is from this is the PreQuilt one. This is number 6.
Yeah.
This is Colleen. Sorry, I can't see her. She's just over. I'm not sure if you can read that, Ange. Colleen Neat.
Yeah.
She took her fabrics and uploaded them to PreQuilt and pre-designed her whole quilt. Holy mackerel.
Yeah, that's commitment and genius. I saw there's another person. So I should preface this with saying we've picked photos off Instagram because they're in the public domain. We've not picked photos from the Facebook group because the group is private. And so if you want to see those, you're going to have to join the Facebook group. It's not because we don't love what's being shown in the Facebook group. We do. I did see someone else, and I thought this was a genius trick, loaded photos of their blocks as their fabric swatch in PreQuilt and then designed their own layout using their blocks they'd already made. I was like,
Smart.
So I'm going to talk to...
So they're just squares, but then they can move them around. Squares and rectangles.
And I'm going to talk to Laura about whether, if I supply photos of my blocks and everything, whether she can do a how-to so we can all do it, because I'm so excited.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. Okay.
So here is somebody who I think, let me just see if I can make sure I've got the right one. Yeah, this is, she's doing it all in grays, and this is Ninja Quilter. And she's just doing a touch of color in every single block, but she's just using grays.
If this is the one that I think it is,
so this is number 17.
Oh, yep. This one's really good because, and I chose this one on purpose because 2 things, it's brilliant, and she actually started this in 2019 and stopped after block 10 or 11 or something, and she's come back this year to finish it. And it's a great lesson in, if you fall off the wagon, you can pick it up at any time and you're not going to be behind, and you can still enjoy the community aspect even if you're not doing the block that everyone else is doing that day. And this year, a lot of people aren't doing the block on the day, if you know what I mean. Like, it's a lot of jumping around. So that's a really good example of not every work in progress is lost. It's not a UFO. You come back, you pick it back up, you get back on that horse, and you make something awesome. Plus, I liked her Instagram name.
Now, this one has me, this is the one with the Heather Ross fabrics, the Rapunzel hair. And I'm just going, when did that fabric come out? Like, how did I miss that?
Well, you're lucky because she just reprinted it and you can get it again.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah. So I have a big soft spot for Heather Ross, and I think this is sewn by Elf. Is that,
Yeah.
it's, yeah. So she's an Aussie as well, so that's really good. And she's doing, so she's picked a fabric designer for her quilt, and it's all Heather Ross, and she's doing a rainbow wash of Heather Ross. And I think that's just so, as a person who loves that fabric designer, it's like Chula Pink. It's just really lovely to see. And that Rapunzel fabric is in Heather Ross's reprint line, which was 2 ago, and you should still be able to get it. I will send you a link to enable you all to go and buy it because it's lovely. Far, far away. It's far, far away too, I
It's called
think is
far,
the,
far, far away. Okay. I think I have the one with all the octopus in it, and I used that in some fussy cutting English paper piecing last year.
yeah, I think that's the Mendocino. I can never say it properly.
Yes,
Someone out there.
Mendocino. That's the line.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is one of the smaller blocks, and this is by Charm Quilter. This is the blues, so very similar to yours.
Is this the what number is that one? Sorry.
That is
I'm
number
just,
5.
there's a delay in what I can see. So, oh yeah, I put this one in because it's a great example of solids with pattern. So your eye gets a rest because of the solids around the side of it. It focuses your attention on those 2 great Chula Pink prints. The solid matches the blue in the waves, the highlight in the waves. So she's selected a color based on the fabric she's using. And I would like this one for my own quilt, please, because it goes with
Yes,
my
it would
dog.
match, wouldn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
So let's do. This is an interesting one. This is 3 blocks at once. This is from Modern Squares from Florida. And she's
Oh,
using
yep.
solids with just a touch of pattern.
Yeah, so I put this one in because a couple of things. She's posting a grouping of blocks at a time. So if you're worried about swamping your social media feed with one block every day for 100 days, this is a really good example of how someone's made an interesting group photo and posted a group of blocks all at once. You should go check it out, her feed out, because when you see them, you get like a picture of how the quilt's going to look. And she's used a standard background, which is that white fabric, and she's just using solids with a touch of print. So it's a really good example of how you don't have to have a lot of print to make a lot of impact. But yes.
Okay. We've got all sorts of, you've chosen some absolutely gorgeous ones. Let's see this one. This one is by Moonlight Quilters. This has a lot of pattern. This has a lot of pattern in it, but well done.
So Moonlight Quilters is doing Heather Ross as well. I'm just, oh, my mouse just died. I can't. She's got the dogs. It's the dogs and the where did it go? I've lost it off my, oh no, there it is. Yeah, so this is all Heather Ross. So this is an example of brown can be your friend. People don't use brown enough in quilting, and often think it's the realm of traditional quilts and traditional sampers and Civil War and all of that. But brown can be modern. And she's used 4 different prints, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 different prints in this block, and they all work cohesively because they're taken from the same designer across multiple lines, and that designer tends to use a consistent palette. So, I mean, all designers do consistent palette so that all the fabrics work together. This is also an example of the difference that cutting stripes consistently in a block makes. Right. So you can use stripes to convey movement and interest depending on how you cut them. But yeah, plus we used to have a beagle.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say we used to have a beagle, so I'm kind of partial to the beagle heather print.
Well, I was going to comment on her layout. I really like the way that she incorporated the paw prints into her background. Yeah, very clever, very, very clever.
Yes.
And let me just see. Is this? I think we've done 17 already. Oh, let's. I want to mention good old Robin Pickens.
Yeah, I think we could have a whole chat about Robin.
She did a fabulous one last year. It really motivated me to get going on this one. It was done in solids, um, with very desaturated lime greens and then shots of bright red orange. And this year she seems to be doing it in her thatched fabrics, and they are just stunning.
So Robin's a really good example of block photography. If you go and look at Robin's whole feed, if you're struggling for ideas on how to frame your blocks for sharing, it's a really great lesson in composition and how light plays a really big difference in how we see blocks. So many great blocks are shared and they're taken in a dark room and you can't get a sense of the full color that's being used. I picked this one too out of Robin's because it's browns and a mustard, and it shows you that it can be really modern and nice. And I liked that Robin is again doing that thing where she's putting in a pop of white, and I'm assuming she'll use a white background to make the blocks blur and blend into the background, so you just get hints of color. If you click the link in Robin's profile and go to her website, she shared a lot of she used Illustrator and mocked up different versions of the quilts that she's going to use, that she uses her fabrics for. Goodness. And so you can get a sense of what they look like with different fabrics. And she's also selling kits. She's got a link to a store that's selling kits if you don't want to have to think about any of it, if you just want her to pick it for you. So yeah, I'm just
Well, what I
Robin's a
really
dog.
like about this thatched fabric is it's that two-tone solid. Like for a person that doesn't like the solidness of solid
Yeah,
fabric, it's just a softer version to give you that unified color, but it's just got that little bit of depth to it.
texture. It's a texture thing.
Yeah.
And because I know what Rayleigh is like, I'm like, I would love to see Rayleigh have a crack at a quilt like that. Just because when you don't, as a fussy cutter, I tend to make her life difficult because I go in and I go, the prints, I need the prints to shine in this quilting. So it's a lot about simpler quilting lines and simpler patterns. Whereas if that was my quilt, I could just go in and go bananas. The quilting is going to shine on this more than it will if it gets lost in prints. So if your jam is free motion quilting, for example, but you want to have this sense of community and sewing, if you make a solids or a texture tone on tone version, you can really go to town with your free motion at the end of it. So yeah, I love Robin.
Just lovely
Yep.
stuff. So let me share a couple of the ones that I pulled. Um, let's go with this one. This I pulled because I just wanted to show this is by Nori Quilts. And I pulled this one out because it's just shows how you play different people have different ways they like to contrast. Some people do it with color, some people do it with value, and this is an example of doing it just with color and pattern. You if you took a black and white photo, this would practically register all the same. It's
Yep.
all very it's on the darker side and there's not a lot of variance, but I thought this was very well done. And
Yeah.
just to contrast that one, I'm going to show you this one, and this one's from whoops. This one's from Backyard Becky Marzano, and it's a very soft version of the very same block. And I think this is stunning.
We
Absolutely
both
stunning.
picked Becky in our favorites. Um, and I there's a few things that make my heart happy with Becky's, and it's that when she takes a quilt photo, a block photo, there's no stray threads coming off. She obviously trims the edges of the block before she takes a photo. It's crisp and pressed. So she obviously presses it as she's finished, and she's using a consistent background, and the lighting is really good. Like, it's light, bright, you can see everything in it. Plus, let's face it, those blocks are amazing. She's using a palette that I would never have picked myself, which is not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just, and it's the differences between us. But I am in love with this. Just, it's
Isn't that
feminine,
a block?
soft, and yeah.
Okay, so let's just pull another one here. Here I thought was this is just a simple block, but look at how Fussy Cutting elevated this one. She just, that line in the middle, it's simple. Sometimes you look at these blockings and you go, which block was that? I didn't do that. And then you realize you did, but you just did it a totally different way.
Yep.
And this is by Candace Breach.
Oh, I think I had Candace as well. Yeah. I really like that Candace fussy cut and matched those dots so that the color transition reads as one piece of fabric. Yeah. It's not obvious that it's two, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that as a fussy cutter, that really makes my heart sing. Plus, to not get any movement in the print as she worked, because she has to match at those 4 points, I'm like, hats off. That's a good one. And especially because that strip is 1/2 inch from memory.
Yes.
When it's finished.
It's a 1/2 inch. The 1/2 inch that she's got to sew straight.
Yep.
This is just one. Where is this? There was one that I had to. Where is it?
Sorry, it's school. It's school pickup, school drop off. So my son's just gonna quickly say goodbye. Goodbye, Mama. Have a good day, kiddo. Love you. Sorry.
No. So many of us are mothers.
Let me just say, as much as I love quilting, family comes first.
Yeah. So here is one by Patchwork Girl. Patchwork Girl 65. And I pulled this one because these are fairly traditional fabrics. This is not bright hues. These are all fairly desaturated, but it just shows you what you can do when you are thoughtful about your pattern and where the contrast comes from. I think this is just very well done.
Yeah, and I really like that she's used olive. Going through a real olive thing at the moment. But the other thing that I think this is a good example of is, while the pattern may read as modern, you can make it feel traditional with your fabric choices. And being in love with like 1930s repos or Civil War or anything like that doesn't preclude you from enjoying this type of event. There are some beautiful examples of Civil War quilts made in this pattern. It's just about having fun with what you love. And I think that's Tilda. Is that Tilda in the middle?
I don't know.
Are they?
Whoops. Sorry. I'm just going to show you another one that was very traditional. Very, very traditional, and very soft. Again, not a lot of contrast and value, but this is by Homes by Jennifer. Home sewn by Jennifer, I apologize. And look, she's even done a clever way of marking the block at the bottom. Now there is one here. Is it this one? This is another, I pulled this one just because I thought this was also a very clever way of just marking it up, putting it on a whiteboard and writing down the number with your name. This is by my quilting princess from Mexico City, Mexico.
I'm like, Jennifer, I'd like to see that keyboard that Jennifer's popped all those numbers on. Like her husband's gone into work and
now this one had me just going, do you get that fabric? How did that fabric happen and I didn't know about it? Like, I really just looked at this. I'm not sure if these are the three witches from Macbeth or they just look like it to me, but this is from Arizona LMT. And this is a brilliant block. Such good use of the good place of fabric and the stripes and the dots. Like, I just love this. Do you know this fabric?
I'm just waiting for it to come. Oh, is it the? Oh, it's Ghastly's. It's Alexander Henry.
Oh,
Um,
of
telling
course it
you.
would be Alexander Henry.
It's the Ghastly's series that they do. So it's really popular. They've got a couple of different themed versions of it. It's like a running motif that they've done. But yeah, it is very much like the Three Witches from Macbeth. I wish I could get my hair to do that.
Well, I hate to
Yeah.
say this, but we are at the 45-minute mark. So I am just going to give you the floor because one of the main things we were going to talk about is you were going to talk about the if people have not started yet, you've got a program or a layout for 80 blocks if they just want to start today, or if people for whatever reason are going to off ramp, you've got a solution for them as well. Tell us about that.
Yes. There's a bit of an echo, and I don't know whether that's me or.
Here we go. There.
Sorry.
Yep, I've got it. Fix it.
This is the first year that we've done it where we've offered free layouts for less than 100 blocks. So if you wanted to join today, for example, we're block 21. We're block 21 in the Southern Hemisphere. You can join and make, say, the 80 block version of the quilt pattern. Or if you only wanted to dabble for a little bit, you could make the 21 block version. Or there's a 64 and a 50. So you can come in and go out at any time. And unlike other years where because we had to do prizes, and that meant people had to post on certain days, and it was just all over the shop. This year we've pick your own adventure, choose your own adventure, commit to what you're happy to make, and just join the community. Come learn with us, play with us, meet people who love what you love and do what you do. And just come and hang out for a bit. So you can get the free patterns for those layouts off my website, and we'll have links to all of that. If you order the digital patterns, they come standard as a file with those. So come on board, join us. If you know that you're going away for holidays, then you can play up until that point and then dip out and come back. But yeah, come and have fun. Come and play. Come and share your fabrics. Come and look at everybody else's fabrics. But yes, so that's the idea this year, is that we want you to choose your own adventure, or just play for all 100 days. But there's no pressure.
There's no pressure. No pressure. And I must admit that I have not been keeping up the past week. I just got busy with some other things and I've been posting them like 4 days at a time. I've cut them and then I finally get around to doing it. So it's just a matter of just finding your own rhythm and doing
Yeah.
it when you get around to them.
Yeah, and
Go ahead.
that's the beauty of it.
Yes.
There's no quilt police here. We're all friends. You're in the cone of silence. We're not going to go, hey, where were you yesterday? So yeah, do what you can when you can and have fun.
And of course, PreQuilt has all those great coloring pages too. If you're a person who likes to dabble and play with color before you begin, I can't believe how much fun I have with that. Going, bing, I'm going to change that yellow to green. And
Yeah, PreQuilt was just amazing. Um, for those of us that like to play and like to have fun, and it's so easy to use. Like, I'm not endorsed by PreQuilt. We don't get any kickback from PreQuilt. We just did it as a way of working with a company that we really loved and offering a way to get people more confident with picking colors and all those sorts of things. So yeah, just go and you can get the layouts on PreQuilt for free. the colouring pages as they are, but if you want to go in and customise them, you will have to subscribe to PreQuilt. So yes, it's I'm so excited to have them on board, and they're going to be on board for a few other big things we've got coming too.
Excellent. Well, everyone, thank you so much for showing up with us tonight. As you can see, I could talk to Angie for hours and hours and hours, and I have in the past, and will probably be in the future. So, if you guys are interested in us having another one, please let us know. Put the comments down in the chat. If you have any other questions, please let us know.
Yeah.
And we'll see you in the next one then. Thank you so much
Yes.
for showing up.
Thank you. Have a great day.